Thank you very much, Mr. Dreyer. Ambassador Hills, I've received a surprisingly large number of calls from many organizations and companies expressing concerns with Canada's inconsistent IPR protection and enforcement. As you may know, last year Canada remained on USTR's watch list because many American companies still face legal uncertainty during the administrative process to obtain IPR protection. How can we confront the issue, and how can we ensure that our trading partner doesn't institutionalize bureaucratic barriers for our companies? I'm also concerned that some of the worst offenders of IPR violations globally would be India and China. And how do we stress to them the importance of fixing those problems if a developed nation such as Canada continues to deal with our IPR issues in the manner that it does? I think I'm a strong supporter of NAFTA, but I think this is an issue we've got to address because it's hurting a lot of our companies that are doing business in Canada.
I agree that intellectual property protection is absolutely essential. We're on the upscale in terms of our production. But even in great families, you have differences. And we do have differences with Canada, as they do with us. The remedy is to sit down and work through it. It is certainly made easier by reason of having a trade agreement that sets out the rules so that you have a mechanism of addressing and getting a solution to the rules. So we have a lot of positive, many, many more positive with our first largest trading partner, their single largest, and some negatives, and they have a few complaints about us.
I'm sure that's true. I think we'd like to explore any and all opportunities because I think globally it's more important than just our bilateral relationship. I think it pretends to influence a lot of our other relationships on IPR with other nations. Mr. Dreyer, did you want to comment?
Well, the only thing that I would add to that is that we have a process in place to deal with this, and that was really part of this whole negotiation. And you know, when you are dealing with countries and businesses that want to remain on the cutting edge, there's going to be a lot of competition, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to ensure that that takes place. Ambassador Hills is absolutely right. The imperative of focusing on the rights of property is a very, very important thing. And I will say, she and I were just discussing earlier today, that as nations become more innovative and creative, and as they develop patents themselves, and we were talking about the fact that in China we're seeing a dramatic increase in the number of patents being created. As that kind of intellectual property is developed there, you're going to see a greater degree of responsibility take place.
It seems like, I mean, in a nutshell, what's happening is, and I've heard it probably more associated with some of our pharmaceutical companies, that go over there and the generic companies appeal the process, saying that they haven't really lived up to everything they promised to deliver, and so the patents should be invalidated and they should be able to go ahead and come in and take over those patents in the generic form. As I've talked to some of my friends from Canada, they say, well, that's going through the courts. But I think there are two opportunities maybe that we're going to have to look at. One is, I think Canada could address it through their legislative process to make sure that that is clarified and that IPR protection is paramount to them as it is to us. And then secondly, there's always the possibility of we hate to do it, but filing a claim, and I don't want to rule that out. One last question, and that is dealing with energy. I'm as excited as I can be to see what's happening in Mexico right now, and them making the constitutional changes to allow investment from foreign oil companies and foreign partners. And I think it's going to do dramatic things to provide energy for the entire continent. But one of the things that kind of seems stymied still is the XL pipeline. And I know that our friends from Canada are very, very concerned about the length of time where we've been dragging our feet. Any thoughts from either of you on you know, what we should do to move forward on that, the XL pipeline itself.
Well, I'm on record. When I served here, clearly I am very supportive of proceeding with the XL pipeline, and for all the reasons that have been stated, to me it's very obvious and apparent. And I think it's also something that can help us in our relationship with Canada. As you know, Mr. Chairman, next month, Prime Minister Harper will be meeting with Presidents Obama and Peña Nieto. And I think that this will clearly be a topic of discussion, I suspect. And I also want to say that as we look at this overall issue, I want to congratulate Secretary Kerry for the very strong speech that he delivered at the Organization of American States recently, in which he talked about this expansion and of our trade relationship within this hemisphere. I think it's an important and a very positive sign of this administration's desire to move forward on it, and I hope that the XL pipeline will be part of that process.
Well, thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Cirrus.